All right, let's get right into it. We're going to swing back to the 1930s to uncover a story about dance, about rebellion, and about a revolution on the ballroom floor that history, well, it almost completely forgot. This is the secret history of the Lindy Hop Queens. So I want you to picture this. It's Harlem in the 1930s, and the Savoy Ballroom is the place to be. They called it the home of happy feet, and for good reason. It was the absolute epicenter of this dance craze that was taking over the country. The Lindy Hop. The energy inside, just electric. The music was swinging, and the dancing, it was like nothing anyone had ever seen before. Now, for decades, we've kind of been told one version of that story. You know the famous names, you've probably seen the old film clips, but what if that history we all know is only half the picture? What if the real innovators, the people who actually ran that dance floor, have been hiding in plain sight this whole time? Okay, so let's quickly touch on what's become known as the official story. It's the one you'll find in most of the history books, and it's a story that's really dominated by some incredible, legendary male dancers. And don't get me wrong, those guys deserve the praise. Dancers like the amazing Frankie Manning were absolute pioneers. They took the dance to unbelievable new heights. Their names are, carved into the history books as the kings of swing. But, and this is a big but, that intense focus on them created a massive blind spot in the story. Because while the kings were getting all the attention and being crowned, the queens who were right there with them, helping build the entire kingdom, they were pretty much being written out of the narrative. So it's time we talk about history's missing dancers. And just look at this. The contrast here is so stark, isn't it? On one side, you have the name we all know, and on the other, you have the names we all should know. Norma Miller, Frieda Washington, Ann Johnson. See, these women weren't just partners along for the ride, they were absolute powerhouses. So let's do this. Let's give them the introduction they have deserved for so long. It is time to officially meet the incredible African-American women who didn't just dance at the Savoy. They completely transformed the art form. We've got Norma Miller, who literally earned the nickname Queen of Swing. Then there's Frieda Washington and Ann Johnson. Now, these are not just names on a list. These are the revolutionaries at the very heart of this story. And we're about to see just how much of a game changer each of them really was. Let's just zoom in on Norma Miller for a second. Her story is the perfect example of the kind of jaw-dropping overlooked talent that was all over the Savoy back then. Okay, get ready for this. Norma Miller turned pro at the age of 14. 14! I mean, that's just wild. And even before that, when she was just 12, she was already choreographing entire routines. This wasn't just some kid with a hobby. This was a flat-out prodigy, shaping the future of dance before she could even legally drive. And this is probably the most crucial thing to understand. In partner dancing, you traditionally have a lead and a follow. Well, these women, they blew that idea right out of the water. They were so much more than follows. No way. They were leaders. They were innovators. They were calling the shots in the middle of fierce competitions, inventing these breathtaking aerials. In fact, a lot of people credit Frieda Washington with creating the very first over-the-back toss. Seriously, their male partners often had to scramble just to keep up with them. But what they accomplished on the dance floor, that's really only half of what makes their story so incredible. To truly get the weight of their achievements, you have to look at the world they were living in. They weren't just fighting for a spot on the dance floor, they were dancing against the full force of society. I mean, just look at this triple threat they were up against. First, you've got the super strict gender norms of the 1930s, where women were just expected to be passive and follow a man's lead. Then, they were navigating pervasive, awful racial segregation. And they did all of this while trying to make a living during the crushing economic hardship of the Great Depression. It's just staggering. So that brings us to the big question, right? If they were so important, so revolutionary, why are so many of us only just hearing about them now? How could they have been forgotten for so long? And the answer, unfortunately, is, well, it's frustratingly simple. It's gender bias. The people writing the history books, the ones telling the stories, they were almost always focused on the men. So the innovations they chose to highlight, the legends they chose to build, they were all centered on the male dancers. And the women's contributions, they were just pushed to the side, overshadowed, and eventually pretty much erased. But here's the hopeful part, the good news. That's all starting to change. Today, a new generation of dance historians is working so hard to correct the record. They are digging through dusty archives, poring over old interviews, piecing together these women's incredible stories bit by bit. Their legacy is, finally, being reclaimed.
So, if you take one thing away from all this, let it be this. Norma Miller, Frieda Washington, and Ann Johnson didn't just dance the Lindy Hop. They were its architects. They helped build the very foundation of what we now call modern swing. Their creativity, their leadership, their sheer grit, it's all woven right into the DNA of the dance itself.
And that really leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? If these absolute titans of dance could be overlooked in a history as vibrant and as documented as this one, well, it just makes you wonder. What other crucial stories, what other incredible innovators have been hidden in plain sight all this time, just waiting for us to finally look a little closer?